pacifists, Corvus said with an emphasis that seemed almost a shout, then a beat of silence, and a smile played across her lips. And we are warriors. And then there's another section. I don't know where this is going to go. I don't know if this might get cut. This sounds like a high candidate for getting cut. Battles make heroes, Dazar said, and John felt like he learned something about the dwarf in that moment. He could hear that Dazar believed this to be true, but knew it was a lie. It was a test. War makes only one thing. Corpses. Corva looked down at the high Theocron, who nodded. Test passed. And those who covet peace, Sir John said. Corva nodded. Respect. Aye, she said. So that's going to turn into... this is going to turn into the Orc entry, where you meet Corva, and you learn about MCDM orcs, right? They're like amazing warriors because of the Bloodfire, but that's not their nature. Is they live in they like forests. they like unspoiled land. Anyway, well, yeah, I had to cut 3 blank dice there in Strongholds and Followers. Those weren't MCDM orcs; those were Matt's D&D orcs, and they were the White Tusk tribe. But that's not how orcs name their tribes. They name them after physical, natural events and stuff like that. So there's like the Ghost tribe, because the Ghost, the Howling, the Lightning clan the Lightning tribe is one. The Whitewater, right? They're named after they tend to be one name, and they're not the Whitewater tribe. They're the Whitewater. They're the Howling. We need the Howling. Anyway. Yeah, all that stuff stays. That's the bit at the before the fiction, Hive Indicator. Oh, yeah. Narrator X says, Matt, I've been watching Invincible cartoon. I really love it. Cool. My favorite line is, you can either be a good guy or you can save the world. You can't do both. What do I think about that? I don't think that is a very good line of dialogue. It sounds like somebody trying to replicate the line from The Dark Knight. And kind of being like, well, I can't do it as well as they did. They already did it. They already did as best as it can do. Anthony Lee Phillips, when did I first get into synths? I mean, it depends on what you mean by get into. Do you mean like thought they were cool or listened to synth music? Blade Runner, 1982. And spending 20 years I was always trying to find like Vangelis's music, but with a beat. And I literally, like, that must exist. And so in the music store, I would be like, well, Tangerine Dream seems to be kind of be like that. And I remember buying Optical Race and Phaedra and Tiger, Tyger. And like, Phaedra was so fucking weird. I really couldn't listen to it. It was a trip. Optical Race was just junk. It just felt like junk. It was just new age junk. And I would listen to new age stuff like Andreas Vollenweider, because I worked at a music store, and that stuff, we would play new stuff when it came in, whether we liked it or not. And I remember liking stuff like Andreas Vollenweider and Cusco was neat. And I really liked Vangelis's back catalog. But I was always like, where is this but a beat? And I remember I was playing games with a bunch of guys who were going to UCI, University of California at Irvine, which is just down the street from here. I was not going to that school, but I had friends that went there, and we were getting together and playing games, and like 2 things happened. One, they were listening to a radio show that used to happen every night. This is in the 90s. It still happens, the same DJ, but it happens now only on the weekends, called Metropolis, the sound of Los Angeles at night. And it was trip hop and jungle and drum and bass, and I was like, oh my god, this is what I've always been looking for. And specifically, it was the Chemical Brothers, back when they were called the Dust Brothers. And so when their first album came out, and I was like, Exit Planet Dust, I'm like, oh, they changed their name because they had to. And so that album specifically, and Jason Bentley had this. I don't know where he got it from. He may have mixed it himself, but he had it's a mashup, but it was Tomorrow Never Knows by the Beatles. Just plays like a normal song, Tomorrow Never Knows by Beatles, and then it seamlessly transitioned into, then at the time, a white label version of the Chemical Brothers cover of that song. And then later, in a future album, I think, they would put vocals on it, I think, and release it as a real song. And I was like, God, I if the internet existed back then and it didn't, I would have been like, how do I find that? And then my friend Dave had bought some albums looking for more stuff like the Crystal Method, and one of them was Underworld, a live album called Everything Everything. And I was like, oh, this is what I've been wanting. So does that count as being into synths? I don't know. And then 2017, I think. 2017, a couple things happened. I broke my arm, but also my YouTube channel was kind of taking off, and D&D was becoming more and more a job. And I was looking for another new hobby that was mine alone, that didn't have anything to do with streaming or strongholds and followers or any of that nonsense. And I watched a video on YouTube with a person who had just bought a Mother 32, a semi-modular synth from Moog. And they had patched it to make it sound like, not just sound like Vangelis, sound not just like Blade Runner, but sound like that one Blade Runner track that's kind of legendary. And I was like, oh my God. How much is that? It's only like $400 or something, maybe $600 or whatever. And I'm like, I can afford that. And it's just a bunch of patch bays and cables, and you're telling me that if I plug those things in the way he plugged them in, and I type the notes in right, which I can peck them out and find the right Blade Runner notes, that I can make Vangelis music? Are you fucking kidding me? And the answer is no, you can't. That's stupid. A lot of those synth tubers, they make these videos, and you end up buying these synths, and then you plug them in, and you're like, oh. What they don't tell you is they were running that hardware synth through a VST, through a DAW with a VST. And so Valhalla Shimmer. And I was like, okay, what's Valhalla Shimmer? www.google.com. And I'm like, oh, Valhalla Shimmer is a plugin. It's like $35. I'm like, or $50. It was something under $100. I'm like, I can afford that. It's a plugin, but what does it plug into? Oh, it plugs into a digital audio workstation. Oh, well, like what? And they're like, well, like Ableton. I'm like, okay, www.ableton.com, and I download the free version of Ableton, and I bought the thing, and I open it up, and I'm like, load plugins. You take it off. Did it work? Talk to you Monday. And so I run my new Mother 32 with my Blade Runner patched in through into my computer through, it's just audio in. It's not like it's MIDI or anything. Just audio into my computer like a microphone. And then Ableton, I told Ableton, here's where the audio is coming in, and here's where the VST is. And load the VST, and I could see the settings. Oh, neat. Valhalla Shimmer. And I went, doo, 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 doo. And I was like, holy shit. It sounds like fucking Blade Runner. I couldn't believe it. I was so happy. And I literally just shut my computer down, and the next day I opened it up, and nothing had changed. I had saved all the settings and everything, and I couldn't get it to work. I couldn't get it to get the audio into the right track. I couldn't get the track to work, and I'm like, well, that should not be. It's a finite state machine, and I have not changed the state. Right? And I would go look up and why, and I wrestled with it for a couple hours, and I'm like, I literally have no idea what changed. So that was the end of my relationship with digital audio workstations, and I have not really ever reconsidered that. Every once in a while I think, should I get Ableton again? Should I get something else? And then I start looking at it, I'm like, no. What I need is to get more different hardware, like something like a Machina Plus or OP, Teenage Engineering desktop synth. But once I had the Mother 32, I was like, well, I know I was listening and watching a lot of modular synthesis videos as a result of that, and the thing I liked about it was the illusion that if you just patch that module the way that YouTuber did, it will sound the way it did. Almost never works that way. Even when they don't have all this software stuff happening off screen, just incredibly tiny differences in the settings of the knobs can provide huge results. Often because they try to make these knobs do many things because they have limited space. And so I remember a lot of these modules, like the three module challenge, a lot of these modules were clouds. And I'm like, well, I don't know what clouds is, but it sounds fucking amazing. And then I found out, I'm like, well, I'll pick that up later. I'm just going to live with the Mother 32 for now until I really, really, really know it. That's good advice. I did not listen to it because I was like, oh shit, clouds, I'm just going to buy it sooner or later, right? Well, what happened was I found out that it had already been discontinued, like the October before this. And I was like, oh shit, I better buy one quick. So I drive up to one of the local synth stores in LA. There used to be two of them. One of them was the Stoner synth store, and the other one was the Hipster synth store. I went to the Stoner synth store first, and they were like, and I was like, well, I should probably get a blank. And while I'm here, and I spent a lot of money. And that was it. Then I was into modular synths. Anyway, that's that answer. What's in this tube? It is a I think it's a poster somebody sent us. Somebody who worked in a movie theater sent me a poster of the lighthouse. Captain Flair, how has my TTRPG taste changed over the years? I don't know. I haven't played a lot of new RPGs. I haven't played a lot of new RPGs recently, so I couldn't tell you. Do I enjoy synth music for playing TRPGs? Nope. It's like, to me, synths are like, you know, I have friends of mine that do ballroom dance. I have friends of mine that do RC cars. It's like, do you ever do RC cars with your D&D? Nope. They're as far as I'm concerned, they're too. We have used synth music occasionally, some of mine, but not usually. In like when we live streamed and we needed just the camera's just going to be the players aren't ready yet. The players are taking a bio break. Or the stream hasn't started yet. Synth music will play, but mostly that was a dude who we patronized named State Azure, who actually wrote some original stuff for us when we were sending out packets for Flea Morals. Any chance we'll get new MCDM shirts? Seneca thoughts? That's not really up to me. That's not really up to me. So I don't really have an opinion on shirts, on how they happen or how often they happen or what they do. Other people at the company need to care about that. Orbital and The Orb. The Orb released a great album with David Gilmour, which is great. It was super good. You can hear the cello. There's a cello in this. I think it's a sample of the cello, but it might not be. Natosps. I don't know how to pronounce that. Do I like using a lot of resources? Soundtrack, animated battle maps, 3D printed scenery and stuff. No, not. I mean, depends. I mean, I've used. I would say normally what I do is I have a blank grid and dry erase markers, and that's usually the battle map. In fact, that's almost always true. Minis, I've used minis. I've used unpainted lead that had no bearing whatsoever on the actual creature, just as a proxy. Just to there was and I've had custom made miniatures painted. I've used terrain occasionally, like trees. Often I've got trees, and I've got a lot of wargaming, kind of like I've got a war board that we use sometimes, and I've got a really expensive actual castle, like a resin castle that I bought. What movies do I think make good D&D adventures? I don't know. I don't know that there are any movies that make good D&D adventures, but I think the vibe of a movie, like the you can watch a movie and be inspired, and that inspiration you can turn it into an adventure. But I can't think of any movies off the top of my head that I think, quote unquote, that would make a good adventure. Like the 13th Warrior, that vibe of that film is immaculate when it comes to what it felt like my friends and I were playing D&D back in like the 80s and 90s. But that actual literal adventure, I mean, it's Beowulf. You can find a way. I think you can adapt you can adapt all sorts of stuff into an adventure. It's just, it has more to do with how well do you know it, so that because you can't really run a movie or a novel or a comic book plot. You can run a plot, but it has to be incredibly flexible, right? You can say, well, I know what's going to happen, and I sort of know the order it's going to happen in, but I don't really know how we're going to get from here to here, because the players get a vote. The players get lots of votes. So the trick, I think, to running something like a film or a novel into an adventure is just knowing it so well that and not feeling locked to it. The more I know it, the freer I am to go in random directions. When you don't really understand the plot, you just love it. I don't really understand this story. I just like it a lot. When you don't really understand it, then when the players throw you a curveball, which is what you'll want, if they never throw you a curveball, then that means you did not need them. You could have just go watch that movie. When the players throw you a curveball, you can kind of go, no problem. It's very much like speech and debate, where they tell you don't memorize your speech. Do not memorize your speech, because if you memorize it, instead of knowing the topic and knowing the structure of it, then when you inevitably lose your place, you look like a boob, because you sit there going, oh, hang on a minute, and you're looking through your cards and trying to find it, and you've lost your audience. So instead, you just know your subject really fucking well. So you can just go, ta-da, and talk for a long time. Excuse me. Dragon Slayer is one of my favorite movies. It got lumped into a category of kind of cheesy, junky special effects movies in the 80s, but it is not one of those movies. I think it is actually, there's a lot of thought into it.